What's going on, guys? I'm Built and welcome back to another video. If you haven't noticed from the title, I am making this video to let you guys know that I finally got my PC, finally got it up and running, and in fact, this video is being recorded on it now. I do still have to do some more installing, some more tweaking, and getting everything to where it's running the way that I like it. However, it is here, I've put it together, and it is running top notch. If you look behind me, you can see the very top of the tower of my witch farm, and that is a substantial amount of chunks away, and it is rendering it in with no problem. The reason that that is possible is because of a RTX 3080, and I was able to actually get my hands on it. Matter of fact, the regular RTX Founders Edition 3080 that I wanted, they were not able to get, so they ended up upgrading me to the overclocked Vision RTX 3080 made by Gigabyte. So I'm extremely happy about that, and the performance is just incredible. But that's not what this video is going to be about. This video is going to be about the new PC, how I was able to get all of the parts with the inability of getting a GPU and other components at this time with everything going on with COVID, the silicon shortage, and also the crypto mining that's keeping us from getting the cards. And the way that I ended up doing that was going through a SI, which is a manufacturer that puts the computers together and then ships them to you. So they basically build custom computers. And I did a bunch of research throughout all of them and wanted to see who was the best bang for their buck, offered the best warranty, best price, and the best reviews. And I ended up deciding going with IBuyPower, and they were substantially cheaper than a bunch of other SIs such as Digital Design, Orion, and such. So I ended up going with them, plus they had, in most cases, a better warranty. It does all sound great until I get into all of the bad news. This experience was mostly negative for me. However, I am going to go over the negatives and positives of my experience with IBuyPower. And then at the very end of the video, I'm going to be sharing pictures of my old PC, which is what I upgraded from it, which I wouldn't want to call it a potato. A potato would have probably performed better if I took my VGA ports, my keyboard, mouse, plugged it into a baked potato, or even a raw potato. It probably would have performed better. That's no joke, not even funny, and I probably would have got better performance. However, that is the past. Now I have the new PC here, and I'm going to be showing pictures of the new build as well. So let's jump into specifics and start talking about my experience with IBuyPower. So one of the negative things that I noticed right off the bat was whenever I was going over the reviews, I realized that IBuyPower does not offer a military discount. Now with military discounts, you would think that it would not bother me because I am not current nor past military. However, I do see IBuyPower offering a ton of discount codes over the internet in a bunch of different marketing places, and they typically offer 5% off over a certain price. And I just don't see why they just can't offer a flat 5% off, non-compatible with any other offers, to military service men and women. I was really disappointed to see this because, like most Americans, I am a patriot, and I do fully support our men and women in uniform. So I ended up going through the configurator. The configurator was pretty straightforward and simple to use, and I was able to pick all of the parts that I wanted to put together and got them all pieced together and then put my order in. This was the very beginning of my ordering process. This will literally not let you go to checkout unless all of the parts are compatible with one another and all of the parts fit. So you literally cannot mess it up, and then I ended up proceeding to the checkout and placed in my order. Well, I ended up checking on it the day after, and there was a bulletin saying that the parts that I chose were incompatible and that the case would not fit the selected 360mm cooler that I wanted to add to the CPU. So I ended up calling the number that was provided, and they told me that it was an error inside of their system and that the case could fit if they wanted it to, although it would be very, very, very tight, so they recommended that I go with a new case. This irritated me because I felt like this was an error that could have been resolved on their end before I ran into it, and that they wanted me to upgrade the case, which entailed that I needed to find another one that I liked and one that would perform well. So I ended up selecting another case that I liked, and then also ended up taking off a pack of 4 fans that I had because I would not need them because the case that I just now picked was going to included fans. So I ended up removing those and changing the case. Well, a few days go by and I realized that the progress has not been changed at all, and that it was still pending and has not started to be built yet, which is fine. So I ended up calling them and wanting to change a few components. Well, whenever I called them, they informed me that there was only 3 times that you were able to change components, and 2 out of the 3 were already used up because the case was changed and I removed fans. This was really irritating to me because the components that were changed was entirely due to IBuyPower and their system. It had nothing to do with me, and I don't believe that I had anything to do with choosing the wrong part, because as I said and mentioned before, the configurator will not allow you to proceed forward if you choose the wrong parts. So I felt like I was being penalized for something that really wasn't my fault. When I called, I wanted to change more than one part, and they said in order for that to happen, then I would have to change the entire order and pretty much get a refund for this order, wait for my refund to come back, and then have them put in a new order for a new computer. Well, without many other options, I ended up canceling and getting a refund, which took several days to get, and then turn around and put in a new order. But this time I ended up upgrading to a better CPU, better GPU, better power supply, the whole 9 yards. And I went with the Lian Li Mesh 2 RGB case, which is one that is very high rated and much desired, and I've done a ton of research for it. And this case is terrific for airflow and does a great job with keeping all of the components nice and cool. So I got everything that I wanted and I put in the order, and again the configurator says everything's happy and everything fit. So I proceed with paying for it, and then several days go by, which again is fine, and then I decide that I wanted to add a second M.2 drive to it to have additional storage because I had a little bit left over inside of my budget and I was willing to spend the extra money for it. So I called them and talked to tech support, and they informed me that it was their policy that they are not able to add in a second M.2 drive, and they really would not give me a reason why. They said that it just could not be done, even though the board that I got is a ASUS X570 Prime Pro, and it fully supports the additional second M.2 drive slot that is down below. With that being said, some boards are not able to have a secondary M.2 slot without sacrificing some of the SATA bandwidth or some of the PCI lanes. So I do understand it with some boards. However, this kind of blanket policy was kind of uncalled for in my opinion, and I think that they could improve this for their customers in the future by having tech support that knows what's supported and what's not supported between the motherboards. With that being said, on the motherboard, it is literally taking off the heatsink, plugging in the M.2 drive in the connector, screwing it all down, and then adding a driver, which would probably be added through the M.2 automatically. So there's really not much to it, and I don't see why there's a big issue to begin with, at least for this motherboard. So I figured that it was not worth arguing about, and I moved on and figured that I will in the future just buy one and install it myself, so it's really not too big of a deal. After all that was done, I ended up waiting a few more days, and then I finally got an update on the order tracker, and it said that all of the components have been gathered and that they have been sent to assembly to put the computer together. Well, it sat at this process for about a week, maybe a week and a half, and after that amount of time, they then post on the update tracker that there was an issue, the case that I selected was not in stock, and that they would have to have me call this number, which is the tech support number, to call them and change to a different case. The case was the Lian Li Mesh 2 RGB case, and that is the one that I've done a ton of research for, and also at this time have already purchased accessories for, because they said that it was in stock and that it was going to be sent to me. So at this point I'm getting further and further irritated, and I ended up just telling them to take all of the stuff and throw it in the cheapest case that they have and ship it to me. I'll sell the case and I'll buy the case that I want and transfer everything over. And the tech support guy ended up informing me that if I ever wanted to do any kind of warranty through them, then I would have to have the case that they sent, put all the components back into it, and then send it in to have it warrantied out. So at this point, I'm just going to opt to sell the case and then go through the manufacturer warranty on each specific component if I ever have to deal with that. This again is another hassle that is just really not worth it. However, with the way that things are, trying to get a GPU and other components, it's really not leaving me much of a choice. After that phone call, I ended up going and buying the case, which was an additional $120 that I was not planning on spending, and having that shipped to me. I got it a couple days later thanks to Amazon, and then a couple days after that, they notified me that the computer has been fully tested, assembled, burn-in was complete, and then they shipped it out. Whenever I got the box, there was some slight external damage to being shipped, but with the shipping industry coming all the way from California all the way down to Florida where I live, that is to kind of be expected. I'm just thankful that they shipped it through UPS because, well, I wanted my computer in one piece whenever I got it. Pulling everything out of the box, I was very careful to inspect for any damages that has been made, and I did not have any damages on any of the components that come out of the box. It was just all external damage, thankfully. I ended up booting up the computer and making sure that everything was fully functional before I ended up taking it all apart to strip it down and to put it inside of my new case, which was waiting for all of the components. And whenever I was pulling it apart, I noticed that there was a bracket that was supposed to go in the front of the case that has been left out and forgotten. This is one that you are supposed to remove if you are installing some deep fans or some radiators with fans or push-pull fans on the front of the case, and that was not there at all. It was completely missing, which was irritating. And it was not removed due to the radiator being installed there because the radiator was already installed on the top of the case. So whether or not they just forgot to put it on, I don't know. However, it was kind of another irritating aspect of the whole ordering process. There was also a single SATA cable that was missing. One was installed, however, the second SATA cable that comes with the motherboard was not inside of there, and they left that out. I did end up ordering another set of 3 fans, which were the Deep Cool CF120 fans, which are also RGB, and I ended up writing a note inside of the IBuyPower section to include the old fans that were taken off. They did include these inside of the box. I doubt that they would have if I did not ask them specifically to put the old fans inside of the box. Whenever I was transferring all of the components over, I ran into an issue to where the fans were not long enough, and I went to get the supposedly included fan splitter that was included inside of the CF120 fan box, and it was nowhere to be found. They did not include it. I don't know if they threw it out or what, so that was left out as well. I ended up buying the one that they were supposed to include for $10 online, so that set me back an additional $10. However, this may or may not be a negative point because they did do the pre-built and they built it for the case. However, in my opinion, all of those specific cables should be included for future updates anyways. You paid for them, you should get them. So that's another argument that could be had. Upon disassembly, I found that the AIO pump was entirely too tight on the CPU bracket, and this, like most of them, only torqued down to a specific amount of force on the CPU, and it's a preset tension. This does not benefit from being over torqued, and it can damage components, and that is exactly what happened. The Phillips head portion where the screwdriver goes in is completely rounded out on almost 3 of them, and they were so tight that I ended up having to grab them with pliers and break them loose. This was really uncalled for. It's not going anywhere. It's not a vehicle rattling down the road. It's a CPU that just sits on the desk, and they do not need to torque this tight. I do believe that this is a lack of training and that they should work a lot better on their QC side of things and make sure that this does not happen to people's computers that they are paying a high dollar for. Now, I have gone over a ton of negative about IBuyPower, and it has really made up not a very good experience in my opinion. It's really been a lot of hassle that could have been avoided and has ultimately been a headache. But let's talk about some of the positive things that I got through IBuyPower. For one, I was able to get a GPU in a market that is very difficult to get a GPU, and I was able to get it at pretty close to MSRP price. And I was able to get the Gigabyte Vision 3080 Overclocked Edition, which is a really nice GPU. And that was also a free upgrade over the RTX Founders Edition 3080 that they just could not get for me. With this upgrade, I was not charged any more money, so I was glad to see that I actually got a free upgrade, especially for the cost of all of the trouble that I had to go through in order to get it. And with this card being factory overclocked, it should be getting pretty close to a Founders Edition 3090 performance. so that's pretty exciting as well. As a kicker, the graphics card does have some white on it, which does match nicely with the motherboard that I got. The RAM that was included, I guess they were out of stock of the RAM that I was promised, so I was upgraded to pretty much the same version of the RAM that I wanted, which was the 2 sticks of 8 gigs, giving me a total of 16 gigabytes at 3200 megahertz of speed, and I was upgraded to the RGB version of these, which is nice. I do like the added additional aesthetics to it. However, I do plan on upgrading this to 32 gigs or maybe even 64 gigs in the future and populating all 4 of my slots, because using this for graphic editing and also rendering, then it's also going to be utilizing quite a bit of RAM. So I definitely want more than just a 16 gigabytes of RAM. I just figured I could get it cheaper elsewhere because IBuyPower's pricing on the RAM was a little on the high side. As mentioned before, everything shipped well, and it seemed like it was packaged pretty well. There was some external shipping damage, but that's just from the carrier. I'm assuming it probably wasn't done by IBuyPower themselves. However, inside of the box was shipped very nicely. It did have a lot of high density foam around it, protecting everything. And then inside of the computer, it was wrapped inside of a nice non-scratch baggie that encased the entire computer. And the inside of the computer included a nice inflatable foam packing bag that held all of the components in place and kept them from moving around while they were in transit being shipped. Whenever I pulled it out of the box and got it all hooked up to do a test boot, everything test booted fine. None of the cards or anything came out, or the RAM, and everything was intact, plugged in, and good to go. They did have a lot of information, making sure that unexperienced people are going to do all of this correctly, taking out the shipping bag that holds the stuff in place, making sure that they're plugging their monitors into the correct port, and stuff like that. And they also did include some literature for a quick setup guide. Another big positive for me was this entire computer was only about $300 more than MSRP before I had to buy my own case and before I had to buy my own fan splitter hub. So if you are a normal customer and this does not happen to you, then you should look at about $300 more than MSRP, which I feel is really reasonable, stating that you are getting a 3-year warranty with this if you were to keep it inside of the case that it came in, and that you are able to utilize this, which I will not be able to. And you are also getting free shipping, which was a $75 value coming from California all the way down to Florida. So that is some more positives that I ended up getting from IBuyPower. You do also have somebody build it and test it out, and you have less of a chance of RMA while having the stuff delivered, because everything is already tested and known to be working before it is shipped out. And they do also stress test it, so that is another positive. It would be better than buying all of the components separately and then, say, getting the motherboard and have to RMA the motherboard right away and send it back because you got one that was DOA. And of course it's going to rain on my head, however the video must go on. And as mentioned before, I was able to get my hands on all of the parts that I more or less wanted inside of a market that is just horrible to find a GPU in general. So that is a huge positive for these guys, because their suppliers are always going to get the components before any of the stores are, because they have to rely on them to keep themselves in business. Whereas the stores, if they don't have those to sell to the customers, well, they have a ton of other stuff to sell instead. So they're not as heavily dependent on them as these SLIs are. So they will definitely be able to get them before you will be able to. So that's a huge positive as well. At this point in time, I'm going to take all of the specific build data and put it on the screen now. If you are technically orientated, you can look through this and see what all this computer has that I ended up piecing together, and let me know what you think about the build. I have absolutely loved it from the little bit of time that I've been using it, and it is just night and day difference from what I was using before. But again, as I stated before, probably a potato would have been better than that. So let's get on with the technical data. If you are not much of a technical person, feel free to skip this, and I'm going to be putting pictures at the end of this video. So go down in the bottom, everything's going to be timestamped for your convenience, and you'll be able to skip along and see what the actual build looks like. So that's going to wrap up my IBuyPower buying experience. Overall, it is just mostly negative. I wish that they would have fixed a lot of issues. A lot of these could have been avoided, in my opinion. However, it is what it is, and at the end of the day, I am overall happy with the purchase and overall happy with all of the components and the PC that I bought from them. I do look forward to bringing you guys a load of new content with this computer, and I do look forward to having a lot better rendering times. The video that I just put up before this one, it normally would have taken 2 to 3 hours to render a 1-hour video, and that is if that computer did not crash in between. If it ended up crashing, which it did very, very frequently, normally 4 or 5 times it would crash throughout rendering a single video. If it did not crash, then it was 2 to 3 hours. If it did, then it could have been 7, 8, 10, 12 hours. It just really all depends whenever it let me finish rendering it. Now, from the 1 hour and 2 minute video that I rendered, it was 15 minutes. That is going to make my efficiency skyrocket getting these videos out for you guys. Make sure that you stick around to the end of the video to see all of the pictures that I'm going to be posting up of the new build along with some of the other ones. I think that the computer come out very, very well, and I took a little bit longer than the average Joe putting it together because I'm very, very, very picky about cable management. And I wanted it to look nice the first time and not have to go back inside of there and change things around. So let me know what you think about it inside of the comments below. As I said, I am very happy with it. This video has been more of a video for my current subscribers, not so much trying to get more subscribers with this video or trying to make content that is enjoyable to watch, although I do highly hope that you enjoyed this video as well, because I always aim to please you guys with all of my videos that I upload. If you would like to help offset some of the cost of this PC, and believe me, it was a lot, then feel free to go and check out my Patreon page. You can become a supporter for as little as $1, or you can go up substantially higher in your donation amount for your tiers. Any and all Patreons are greatly appreciated and also helps me constantly create content for you guys and keep the videos coming. You will also get exclusive benefits for being a Patreon. You will also get your name on the banner at the end of this video to let everybody know that you are a supporter. You will also get exclusive access to my Discord channel, early release videos a day early, and a ton of other perks. So go ahead and check out my Patreon link below. If you like this video and you think this video deserved a rating, then please go ahead and leave it a thumbs up. Or if you didn't like it, go ahead and hit a thumbs down as well. If you really like this video and you want to see more videos like it, then go ahead and hit that subscribe button. That way you don't miss a single thing. Just be sure that you hit that bell notification. That way you get notified for each and every video that I upload. As always, thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.